Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 1728 Pacific Avenue here in Forest Grove. Located down in the basement as you face the... I'm trying to think how to describe this thing here. The front door doesn't really face out. But anyway, if you're standing out on the road, same street that the driveway goes out to, you're standing on that road facing the house. We are essentially at the front right corner of the foundation wall down here in the basement. You can't miss it. It's a big pipe sticking out of the ceiling. So we're going to go into 3-inch ABS. But we're going to immediately transition into cast iron. Checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Oh, sorry, this first set of turns here is a beast. All right. Off we go. I'm going to leave water off right now. It's kind of a risky clean out access the way it's set up here. Water can escape it, potentially, especially if you have too much volume. So, lots and lots of water's been down this thing. So we just went from 3-inch ABS at the start to 4-inch cast iron. Now we are into 4-inch transite concrete. My camera right now is upside down. Flow line's at the top of the pipe. If you're unfamiliar with this type of pipe material, it's a type of concrete, but it doesn't have aggregate rock in the mix like most concrete pipe does, and concrete in general. It has asbestos fibers. Although it has that scary word that everyone gets losing their mind over, the asbestos fibers are contained within the concrete. There are some real advantages to asbestos concrete. It has, unfortunately, pipe joints like anything else, which allows roots to come through, as you can see here. But in general, the stuff usually holds up as it ages. It generally ages nicer. It doesn't become super, super rough over time. It remains smooth up until the day it's done for. Regular concrete becomes extremely rough over time. So right here at 45 feet, we are hitting a Y connection. This is a very good chance this is indeed the main here. It's, well, I'm going to go locate and see where we're currently situated at. 45 feet's a fairly short line, but we're not sitting too far from the road either. And some of these towns like this too, the main laterals are not always in the road. Sometimes they're situated to the side of the road. So we're going to go locate here and see. Line's fully drained out, so we're getting a decent look at it here. You do have a belly in the line. We're going to revisit that on the way out. We also have a root intrusion. So we're going to talk about those things as we come back in. I can kill two birds with one stone here. I'm gonna mark this for repair. And here's what I would look into. I get varying opinions on epoxy liners as to whether or not you can actually cure the epoxy in standing water. As the line sits right now, there is so little buildup prior to the belly. I don't see any evidence that belly has actually led to a flow problem before. If you were able to shoot a liner through this thing and seal over this joint right here that's allowing roots to come through and some dirt, as well as line to the belly there, you're going to make that belly even less significant because the pipe walls will be about as smooth as glass is. You're obviously still going to have a belly there, which still presents a higher likelihood or potential for blockages to occur. But as you can see here, I mean, there's zero buildup leading up to that point, which tells you that that belly has not led to any kind of flow problem of any significance, at least in the recent past. There's no signs this has been cleaned anytime recently or anything. So it's an option you can look into. It's not going to make the grade perfect. You're going to still have standing water there, but you will improve functionality quite a bit. You'll also hopefully be able to eliminate the root intrusion by doing so. However, if there's issues with that, I mean, at this juncture in time, what needs to be repaired, or ideally, if you're going to do a traditional dig, is the last probably 10 or 15 feet of the line here. If you're going to dig up the roots, you might as well deal with the belly at the same time. But my 2 cents on these things is, if you're going to start digging at all on a line this age, you do the entire thing. You don't piecemeal it out and do it in parts and pieces. It becomes more expensive by a long shot over time to do it that way, and your result is not going to be as good. When you're cutting into pipe and leaving portions of it in the ground, you run the risk of undermining and jarring the soil and causing the older parts of the line to settle after you bury them. and you're jarring soil that hasn't been moved or disturbed in 50, 60, 70 years, and it can have an effect on the pipe you're not messing with just by simply digging the line up. And what you can cause is the joints to get separated to an extent and allow them to open up to the ground. So that's why I really don't like seeing spot repairs done on these things. It's part of the reason I'm suggesting looking into the liner option. You're not going to have a perfectly or visually perfect sewer line all said and done. There will be a belly there, but you'll have improved functionality quite a bit. And you would be lining through a belly that already shows no signs of causing flow problems. So putting the liner in there is only going to improve flow. But you got to sell the house at some point, and the person scoping it may not be someone like me that's been scoping lines for 13 years. I've done about 24 or 5,000 sewer scopes. Bellies like that far from the home really don't cause problems in most cases unless the homeowner really helps it along to that point by abusing the line with wipes, paper towels, things like that. All right, so it does appear we're at the main here. We're right up against I'm picking this locate up just shy of the street curb in the grass curb strip. There is a white paint marking right on the face of the curb there. I'm not sure if that's marking the main lateral or not. I'm getting a 7 feet deep here on my locate, where the one that someone else has done, it looks like it says 9 feet. I also don't know what they're locating either. Anyway, that's a spot there I do recommend a repair on. And yeah, we're going to pull back here just at the beginning. When you expose that spot there, you're going to also be digging up part of the belly too when you crack a hole open like that. So, and as it relates to the belly, when it comes to, like, if you were, it sounds like this place is zoned commercial. So if this ever becomes a scenario where you've got a high volume amount of stuff going down the line, where you've got, customers here, things like that, what have you, that's a little bit different story. For your average residential home with 3-4 people living in it, a belly like this situated this far from the home in general is not going to be a huge problem unless the line is being abused to an extent. So I'm not saying it's not worth fixing the belly. It's just in some cases it's not. Just depends on the circumstance. But being that it's a zone commercial setup here, where you may have a higher volume of people in this place relative to the average residential home, that's a scenario where I'd be much more interested in seeing that belly repaired. So, look into what's most cost effective and what can be done. Ideally, you get the belly repaired so it's not, causing a problem under a scenario where someone does accidentally flush a ball of toilet paper down the line or something like that. In general, at this point in my career, that's where I see most bellies like this becoming problems, is when, part of the problem is indeed the belly. The other part of it is how the homeowner's treating the sewer line. And a lot of times you don't always have control over that when you have little kids in the household and things like that. So that's just in general. Under a proper usage scenario where the line is not being abused, pretty unlikely to cause problems. But again, in my opinion, when you're digging into a line this old, it makes way more sense just to simply update it at once rather than do it in parts and pieces. All right, so right now we're sitting on basically the house side edge of the sidewalk, about 5'3" deep here. And that belly there is holding about 2 inches of water in it. The other thing I was going to mention, so you can see how that pipe joint right there has a rubber seal between it, which is unique to transite concrete. Regular concrete doesn't have that. It gives those pipe joints a better chance under the settling condition like they are in to stay intact. But keep in mind, they're also older pipe joints and older pipe material in general. When concrete pipe settles to that extent, that's the other thing that can happen, is the joints can open up to the ground. So right now, it's, sometimes it's not just simply a belly. Sometimes you've got a belly with joints that are opened up. So anyway, ideally, like I was saying before, if you can line it, great. But I would do that depending upon your circumstances. I just recently found out this is zone commercial, which gives you some options there the average house doesn't have. So this is going to be somewhere that's handling customers and things like that. A little bit different scenario. I would rather see that belly repaired than left as it is. So that was going to require digging the good old-fashioned way. But I was getting about 5'3", and I'm using green paint. Someone else has come out here and located parts and pieces of this thing. My depths and things are not lining up with theirs, but their paint markings are like, if they're mapping out the belly, they stop their locates like 4 feet shy of where the belly actually begins. So I'm not sure how much I trust those. I just wanted you to be aware of that. The white paint markings are not mine. Mine are the green ones that are in and around where those ones are at. All right, now I'm in the dirt driveway area. Line's kind of turned. The line comes out from the house. It kind of jaunts at a 45-degree angle and somewhat straightens out there as it rounds that bend. My markings are going to be kind of hard to read there. It's dusty dirt. It's hard to put paint down on it. I'm getting around 6 foot, 6 foot 5 inches deep there. And that's another factor in this, being that this line is mostly under just dirt, and not under a bunch of concrete driveway type stuff like that that's very expensive to deal with. It's an even better reason to just simply dig the thing up and do it right. But as it sits now that I'm locating where this is all situated at, it makes more sense to do that than the liner option. I would be keeping that liner option to the last possible option as it sits now, because it's not that much extra work for the excavator to dig up the rest of it. All right, the line pops out very near the front right corner of the house. That's the side of the house that faces out to the road. I had to put that marking I just did there might be off by maybe 6 inches to a foot. I had to push past that transition a little ways to get a good locate. But you'll see the green marking there that's about 5 feet out from the front of the house. Getting about 5 foot 8 inches deep there. Cast iron pipe's in good shape. No issues with that. And the ABS pipe also in good shape. The transite concrete at this point in time with the belly and roots in conjunction, you know, that stuff's already spanning about the last 15 feet of the line anyway. And being that all you would have to essentially deal with, as far as I can tell anyway, is basically one sidewalk square. This is one that just makes sense to just simply dig up. I recommend a full update to all the transite concrete within homeowner responsibility. And I recommend a rescope afterward to check the work. Very important to rescope, make sure everything looks good. And you want to do that rescope after the line is buried, not beforehand. You're not going to catch any settling problems that may occur. Like the belly, for instance. Most of those happen due to bad installation and uncompacted soils. You want to make sure that everything looks good after it's buried. But yeah, this is one of those that just doesn't make sense to do in parts and pieces. It's reached a point where it's just ready to update.